Hello, this is Elahe Rahimian from Concordia University. I am going to present our work. The title of the work is Fusion Learning for Decoding Surface Electromyography for Hand Gesture Recognition. This work is a joint collaboration with Concordia University and New York University. Here we have the outline of the paper. First, we have the introduction. Then I'm going to talk about the proposed FSGR architecture. And then we have experiments results. Finally, I am going to talk about the conclusion. The motivations behind of this work actually is providing a novel and innovative fusion learning, or FSL. So here, fusion learning or FSL. And the name of the architecture is FSGR, or Few Shot Hand Gesture Recognition for hand gesture recognition task. Actually, the recent literature uses traditional supervised learning methods. So they usually have poor performance if a small amount of data is available or if they require to adapt to a changing task. So moreover, there is a noticeable gap between practical setting and recent academic solutions because of two reasons. The first reason is the variation in the EMG signals. This could be caused by electrode shift, limb position changes, and non-stationary nature of a EMG signal. The second reason is that although deep neural networks perform very well when a large training data set is available, they typically perform poorly when the available data is limited. So this is the second reason. The contribution of this work is proposing the FSGR architecture that combines temporal convolution and attention mechanism to reduce the training time and to mitigate the challenge of variability that I talk here about that. The second contribution is eliminate the need for extensive recalibration via FSL technique or fusion learning techniques, which knowledge will be acquired quickly from a few basic exercises. And this architecture adapts by relying on a small number of new observations. And FSGR accelerate the learning process for a new user or gesture by using knowledge that it has gained from previous source users or gestures. And this learning process doesn't start every time from scratch. So it results in a faster pace to adapt the prior knowledge. In the next slide, we have the proposed FSGR architecture. However, before that, I would like to talk about the pre-processing step. For the pre-processing step, we use a first-order low-pass Butterworth filter, and moreover, we use the mu-law transformation. This mu-law transformation is applied to sensors that have small values, so we can amplify their output in a logarithmic fashion. And this is the formula. Moreover, in this paper, besides that we have used raw SEMG signals, we use a spectrogram, and this spectrogram is calculated using a 256-point fast Fourier FFT transform. And this process converts each segment of raw SEMG signal to 129 frequencies. And these 129 frequencies cover the range from 0 to 1000 Hertz. However, the first frequency is removed. We remove the first frequency. Moreover, we remove the frequencies that are in range 700 to 1000 because the majority of the EMG energy doesn't lie in this band. Then in the next slide, we have the meta-learning structure of the FSGR. So in the meta-learning or fusion learning, unlike supervised learning that generalize across data points, the goal here is generalizing the model to the new task. So here in this formulation, we are dealing with new task or T1, T2, or Tj. And as you can see, each task has two components. A trained set or V1 train or DJ train, and a test set, DJ test. So in diffusion learning, if we have a problem of n-way call-shot classification, actually n can be any number, for example, 5 or 10, and shot can be a number, for example, 1 to 5 or to 10. So in here we have 5-way one-shot classification. It means that we have 5 classes. As you can see, the first class is red, the second is blue, and different classes for clarification in this figure is shown with different colors, and each class has its associated label. So for the network, each observation is concatenated with its associated label. However, during the test, we don't know the label, and here we have a missing label, and the network is going to predict this missing label. So this missing label is going to predict by the network, and then the loss is calculated between the missing label, the prediction label, and the ground truth label. And by using this loss function, we can update the parameters. And here we have DMetaTrain and DMetaTest. In DMetaTrain and DMetaTest, the classes are not common. So during the test set, we have new task and new classes. As you can see, the colors are light colors. However, here we have dark colors. It means that these classes that are presented during the test are not presented in the train. So here we have new classes. In the next slide, we have the algorithm that I talk about that. So we sample batch of tasks from the probability or from distribution, and each task is split in DA-train and DA-test. And we are going to predict the missing label of the final example. So here we predict the missing label, and finally we update the parameters using the loss between the prediction and the ground truth label. Okay, here we have the FSGR architecture. As you can see, we have several modules here. The first module is embedding module. The details about these modules are provided in the next slide. For example, the embedding module extract a 128-dimensional feature vector from raw SEMG signal. So here, if we have a raw SEMG signal, for example, we have 12 sensors. So we have here 12 sensors, and we use a window with length of 200 milliseconds. So here we have a multidimensional input, and the embedding module converts this multidimensional input to a 128 feature vector. So here we have a 120 feature vector, and during the DAG train, each observation is concatenated with its label. However, in the test that for example, here that we don't know the label. So here that we don't know the label is the observation is going to concatenate with its null label. So here, for example, we have 5 classes, and from each class we have one shot or one observation. So here DAG train, and here is DAG test. And then these inputs are fed to the architecture. The architecture consists of 4 attention modules that, again, the details are provided in the paper, and also TCNet modules that are defined with the yellow colors. Each TCNet module has a series of T-block modules, and each T-block module is provided here with the green color. And the T-block module has 2 dilated causal convolutions. So this icon means dilated causal convolutions with kernel size K and dilation factor D. And each dilated causal convolution is followed by a ReLU activation function. Then, as you can see here, this dilation factor is increased exponentially. However, the kernel size everywhere is equal to 2. The details about these blocks or these modules are provided here. For example, the embedding module, T-block module, or the green one that I explained here. Then next, we have TCNet module that, as I explained, is defined by the yellow color and consists of a series of T-block module. And then finally, we have the attention module that, that performs key query similarity measurement or dot product. You can read the details about the attention module in the paper. Finally, we have the experiments and the results. The first, before going to experiments, I would like to talk about database. I use NinaPro dataset or DB2, and this dataset has collected SEMG system with 12 electrodes, and the frequency is 2 kilohertz. The DB2 dataset consists of signals that are collected from 40 healthy users and 50 gestures. And each movement in DB2 dataset is repeated 6 times. Each one lasted for 5 seconds, followed by 3 seconds of rest. So, oops. Sorry. Okay. Next, we have the first experiment. In the first experiment, we classify new repetitions with few shot observations. So here we have new repetitions. Here are proposed architecture that is meta-supervised learning. And here is the previous work that used supervised learning. So as you can see here, we use 5-way 1-shot and 5-way 5-shot, and here is the accuracy. In the previous work, they used supervised learning technique for new repetitions. Another contribution of this work, as I said, is classification on new subject with few shot observation. New subject means that during the test set, we evaluate our model on 8 subjects, that the network doesn't see this subject during the training. So these 8 subjects during the test are the new subjects, and the network doesn't have any information about them. So again, here is the results of our work. And we use 3 embedding module, spec embed, raw embed, and spec embed 2. Spec means that we use a spectrogram as the input, and raw means that we use raw EMG as the input. Finally, we have the third experiment, that is classification on new gestures. So here we have new gestures, and the objective is to evaluate the capability of the proposed FHGR architecture when in the target we have new gestures with few shot observation. So, for example, for the during the training, we have 34. So during the training we have 34 gestures. During the validation we have 6 gestures. However, during the test, we have 9 gestures. So these 9 gestures are only provided in the test set, and the model doesn't see these new gestures during the training. So here shows the efficiency of the FHGR when we provided the out-of-sample gestures. It can be observed that the model can predict unknown class distributions in scenarios where few examples from the target distribution is available. So finally, we have the conclusion. In the conclusion, that actually we provide a FHGR architecture that can quickly generalize after seeing few examples from each class. And the model has the ability to learn quickly based on a few examples. This architecture, referred to as FHGR, transfer information between a source and a target domain, despite the existence of a distribution mismatch among them. Because during the test set, we are observing new subject or new gestures. So there is a distribution mismatch among these new subjects with the subject that were provided during the train. And the learning process doesn't start every time from scratch and instead refines. This would reduce the number of required training sessions, which is a big step toward improving myoelectric control processes. Thanks for your attention.